Hello there, and welcome to my living room. I'm Kathleen Hershner. Have you ever had that experience when you first started talking to somebody and you realize that you know a lot of the same people in common? And the longer you talk to the person, the more you're amazed that you know all the same people and yet you've never met before? That happens to me a lot on this program because I meet a lot of people that I've never met before. And that is certainly the case today with my guest, Cristina Marinero, who I just met.
Yes.
You can vouch for me, Cristina. And we've talked for, what, 5 minutes?
Yes.
And within 5 minutes of chatting here, we know 3 people in Madrid who are the same people. And it's just weird because it's a big city.
Yeah, and you're American and I'm Spanish.
You're Spanish, I'm American. You're involved in dance and journalism. Yeah. Okay, media, whatever. Wow. But you're a trained flamenco dancer.
Yes.
And I know nothing about dance. I have 2 left feet, as we say in English. And yet you know one of my very good friends, Virginia Eshelman.
Yes, Virginia.
Who is involved in
nice.
The world of dance. She and her husband have a company, a logistics company. They move things.
Distribution of companies here in Spain, yes.
Yeah.
They have the main companies, the American companies, Martha Graham, Baryshnikov, American Ballet Theatre.
That's what Virginia always, Virginia as I call her, that's what she always tells me. She goes, we are the premier company, Reali and Eshelman. But I don't know much about dance, and to be honest with you, I've never, true confessions, I have never been, in all the time I've lived in Madrid, to a tablao or to see a flamenco concert. I've seen it on television.
Well, you have now a lot of theaters in which there are flamenco or Spanish dance
Well, you have
shows.
Casa Patas, which is really accessible, close to my house, and I've never been there.
And another very famous is Corral de la Morería.
Corral de la Morería.
That is next to
whatever that
Bailén. Morería is like the Moors.
Okay.
Morería, where the Moors live.
Okay.
Is called.
It's near Bailén.
That. It's near Bailén, near the Royal Palace. Yeah. And it's a place in which all the famous and the Hollywood stars go when they come to Madrid to promote to a movie. Yeah. They go there to have dinner and to watch flamenco dances.
Well, maybe I can stop by so I can see some American celebrities and say, hey.
Yeah.
Well, you work for El Mundo as a reviewer.
I collaborate.
You collaborate as a critic.
Yes,
a critic or a reviewer? Is it the same in Spanish as it is in Spain? As it is in the States?
Because critics and chronicles are almost the same.
Yeah.
I write for El Mundo since 1990. This year is the 20th.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yes. I was very young when I started.
I wasn't going to say that, but I was going to make a joke about, so you were 16 when you started writing?
Well, almost. And it was a very good time to start writing for a newspaper because El Mundo was going to be a year in 1990. El Mundo was 20 years last year. And,
that's right.
Yes. And that years were really fantastic because everything was more naive. Culture and shows, entertainment was treated with more space, was another time.
Well,
today is other kind of time for journalism and for all the communications with internet, Twitter, Facebook, and everything.
Well, it's more complicated now, and also it's probably more competitive as well, would you say?
Well, the thing that happened is today men and women are like more needed of quickly news or things that have more that explode. I mean, the
instant,
like
news.
Instant news.
Yeah, like internet can get the news, the current events on the internet in seconds.
Yes.
You can find out what's going on. So I guess what you're saying is there's a sense of urgency now in the news, and that there wasn't back 20 years ago.
And to write about these things less popular, and I put less popular
in quotes,
Because when you go to a theater to see a ballet, classical ballet or a Spanish dance company, you see that it's full, and perhaps other shows, other kind of theater spectacles are not so full. Dancing is people like dancing.
Spaniards like dancing.
Yeah.
I think dance is probably more popular here. I'm guessing, I don't know, but I think dance is more popular here than it is in the United States, even though it's very popular there as well. But in the States, there, theater and dance and going to concerts and rock music. I mean, there's a lot of competition for the consumers' limited resources.
We envy a lot the Americans because you have so many good companies.
You envy us, do you?
Yes, of course, because you have American
Ballet
New York City
Theater.
Ballet, Boston Ballet, that is now starting a tour in Spain.
Really?
Boston Ballet with a program specialized in George Balanchine, the creator of New York City Ballet. That was one of the choreographers of the Ballet Russe, the Diaghilev, all the beginning of the 20th century.
The Russian ballet.
The Russian ballet.
Well, and then we had the, is it Joffrey or?
Joffrey Ballet.
Joffrey Ballet,
Yeah.
and then we had Martha Graham.
Yes.
Who's
and all the states have their company.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest Ballet, Cincinnati Ballet, Chicago.
It's a big country.
Well, it's great.
No, it's a big country, and because the United States is separated into states, you're right. There's more opportunity for each state to have its own representative.
Yeah.
Dance.
Well, it's a country, but it's like a continent.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. And also, now I'm buying a lot of books through Amazon.
Oh, you are?
And a lot of American books because...
books on dance?
Yes,
okay.
A lot. And you have so many books that for me it's like I'm going to be out of money because there everybody was so concerned about what dancing meant that almost everybody wrote books, even the Spanish dancers that were popular in the United States, like Jose Greco. I think you have heard about him.
Yes, I mean what you're saying is that these dancers wrote books themselves about dance,
autobiographies, or books about technique and style of the Spanish dancing, or books about the history, or for example, the beginning of the classical ballet in America, and here in Spain, it didn't happen because culture and education was in the 20th century less quickly than in the United States.
Well, I think that I can't speak with any authority, but I do know that the United States is a little bit ahead of Spain in some respects. Like Spain has been catching up quickly, very quickly, in the last decade, especially. But they've got about 40 years to recover. 40 and a little more.
Yes, because the beginning of the 20th century was also full of people not so cultured. It was.
Well, I guess I never thought about it that way, Cristina, but now that you mention it, we do have very much a publishing type culture in the United States. I mean, think of the world's great newspapers. Many of them were started by the Hearst Corporation.
Yeah.
Pulitzer. I mean, we got the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Chicago Sun-Tribune. I mean, we have some of the world's great newspapers.
And also, now that I'm buying these books through Amazon, I like a lot to buy second-hand books because they come from the public libraries.
Do they? How
Perhaps
fun.
they have 5 or 6 books. For example, the autobiography of Jose Greco. I bought it like 2 months ago. And I love it because it comes from Sacramento Public Library, and you have everything from the library there. And for me, it's like to have something like a treasure.
It's like a souvenir.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, first of all. I didn't know that Amazon was selling books for the library, but also don't they have like a stamp on the on the edges of the paper.
Yes, sometimes
Sacramento
they have.
Public Library, and then you open it up and you've got the card and you can see
Yes.
how many people checked it out.
Yes, I love it.
How much? I never thought about that. Well, thank you for giving me that tip.
Yes, and also they are not very expensive when you buy it secondhand.
Right.
And this means that in the United States, all the little cities, all the little villages have the public library.
Right.
And you can see, I was speaking about this with a friend of mine, the movie director Fernando Colomo, that he's now searching about an artist for doing a movie. And I told him, you can see in the movies of the 40s, the 30s, of the 50s, that sometimes the main characters of the movie go to the library. And the library is great. I mean, it's a big library of a small city. And for me, like, to have these books is like to have something of those libraries.
I like that. I mean, you can actually see when you go to Amazon that you can see the book that you're going to buy. Can you see if what library it's from? Or does it come as a surprise and then you get it in the mail?
It's a surprise. You know, the seller, the name of the seller, that is a company.
Right.
Perhaps there are companies of second-hand books or books specialized in art or entertainment, because they have a lot of books specialized in entertainment, movies, musical theater, and everything. And when you receive it, you open it and you see all these little things that I love.
What a fun surprise, though, to like have your book come in the mail and then you open it and you go, oh, I wonder if this is going to be from a library or not. And you're right, getting back to what you said about every small city having a big library. I think during the 20s, 30s and 30s mainly, before World War II broke out, I think that a lot of cities were building these beautiful libraries as a way of attracting people from the rural areas into the city.
Yes,
like
I
the
think
city, I know my hometown, Topeka, Kansas, built a spectacular high school, a Colegio Mayor. Spectacular. I mean, way too big for the city. And people are like, why are they building this sort of, Gothic revival style high school? I mean, it looks like Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
It's enormous, with wings and tower in a little farming town. And they said that was because in the 30s they were trying to get jobs for people as post World War I, and they started building these big civic buildings, and it caught the attention of the people who lived on the farms. Like, hey, I want our kids to go to the city and go to this school. It was like an advertisement.
Yeah,
sort of.
And also, I told you before. For some minutes that I was living in Fullerton.
That's right. No, I read that.
In California.
Yeah, in Southern California.
It was in 1987.
Yeah.
And, it was another time also to live there, because it was Ronald Reagan's time.
97 or 87?
87.
Yeah, I was going to...
87. And also I was studying English in the school that was from the junior college or something like that. And one day we wanted to make a show, and a Korean girl and me, a Spanish girl, we get together and she sang Korean songs with the costume, the Korean costume.
Like a kimono or something.
And me, I was like, well, I need a costume, a Spanish costume.
Right.
But in this little town of Fullerton, we went to the dress wardrobe, and they had a Spanish costume there.
Like a regional costume or a flamenco dress, or what was it?
It was kind of a fantasy of a Spanish costume for the opera.
Like Carmen?
Carmen.
Yeah. Oh, no.
It was black and red.
Yes, of course.
You know, the main colors
with
of
lace
Spanish.
And yes.
But, well, they have something. It was, like, great to find out.
Well, that's not... Fullerton isn't that small, but that's not that unusual when you consider how every city had musical theater community community theater playhouses. So all of these cities had little treasure troves of costumes you know, like a costume collection they may have purchased from New York or something like that.
Yeah.
That must have been a fun time for you, though, as a young person to go to Southern California.
For me, it was
during
a dream.
Time. Well, Spaniards were not really going to the United States much back then.
I was 20. I couldn't go into the discotheques.
No.
Because it was 21.
You had to be 21.
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, that I grew up watching American musicals, Jim Kelly, Fred Astaire, all the stars, Hollywood stars, and going there was like, it's like I am at home. It was kind of, afterwards it's different. I mean, one thing is movies, one thing is normal life and everyday life. But everything was like I expected, because when you see Steven Spielberg movies, you know, E.T., that kind of area of houses, mine was like that, because I think E.T. was filmed in that area.
I think it was filmed in Southern California. And those types of suburban communities that you see in that movie are very common in the United States. They seem to erupt, erupto. They seem to erupt all at the same time, like in the 60s. These housing communities just went crazy. I mean, I grew up sort of during that time. And I remember that I asked my mom, why are they building so many new houses when we have all these other houses that people move out of? This was almost crazy to a kid. It's like, wait a minute, we already have places for people to live. Why do they keep going into the countryside, taking up more space? But I guess it's the American way.
Now it's full.
Yeah,
it's full.
Unfortunately. Cristina, let me ask you a little bit about being a critic of dance. I've read a lot of reviews from people who are restaurant critics and people who are film critics, but I've never read much about dance, because I don't read about it. Do you feel sometimes, like when you're writing a review, that you need to say something that isn't so positive, and it's painful to do that, but you feel an obligation to the reader to tell them what you think? It's
painful, and also when you write about somebody that you know, because as I study dance from since I was 8 years old till 17, and then I started journalism and I started writing about dancing, and I know almost everybody that in the past 30 years or 25 years has been famous. I know Antonio Marquez from the beginning of his career when he came to Madrid. I know Joaquin Cortez from the beginning of his youth, because I danced with him in a zarzuela.
Really?
In a zarzuela that was set in the 18th century, and we danced escuela bolera, that is the classical form of Spanish dance. And Joaquin Cortez was great in that style. He's one of the most,
I think I have the most name recognition, or his name is one that I recognize, and I've seen him in Chueca before walking around, and he's quite famous still.
And from that time, he wanted to be a star. He told us.
Really?
He was 15. I'm going to be a star.
I love that.
Yes. And he is, or he was, because now he's not so much...
not so popular?
Well, it's popular, but his shows are not so good.
No.
He's not taking care of dancing so much. And for me, it's a pity, because he was a great dancer, a technician, a very good artist, and he has a lot of strong. And I also know from the beginning Antonio Canales, well, almost everybody that was. And sometimes what you said, it's a pity, it's so painful to say, well, the show is not so good because of this, because to write a critic is not to say good or bad, but to argument why, or to say in this time or in this moment, they had to reduce or to cut, not to stay 20 minutes dancing one person in the theater, in the scene.
Well, so you kind of, when you're writing a review, you have to make an assessment of what you see on that night. I mean, maybe the show was different on another night, but typically a reviewer goes maybe once, twice,
no,
or more?
The review is for the night.
That night.
The opening night or the night you have,
so
have gone.
That's you have to be honest and give your impression as a trained dancer and as somebody who knows the industry and people who rely on you to tell them whether it's worth going to this performance or not. Restaurant critics, I know a few of them, not any of the famous ones in the United States, but I've known a few, and they often will go to a restaurant several times, especially if they've heard that a new restaurant, for instance, in San Francisco is a good one, and they have heard very positive things about it, but the night they go, something is a bit off. And so what they'll do is they'll be like, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's go back a few times and make our review based on the overall experience. But I would think that'd be difficult, especially in your business, because you know those people. It's not quite as anonymous as if you go to a restaurant. You may not. You may not know the chef or the owner, but I would think.
No, but here you don't have so much time to stay 3 or 4 nights.
No.
Imagine going to the same show. Imagine you didn't like it and you go 3 times and you cut your veins.
You didn't like it the first time, and now you get to see it 2 or 3 more times.
Because what I was telling everybody when we spoke about critic is I want it likes me. I mean, I want the show.
Like it.
Yeah, I want to like it. I want to like it.
Please make me like it. Please make me not
because
hate you.
Because it's better. You enjoy, you have a good time, you write great things.
Well, it's much more fun and more satisfying. That's a better word. I think it's much more satisfying and rewarding as a human being to say something positive about something.
Of course.
Like whenever you buy, for instance, a new car and you love it, you want to say to your friends, look at this awesome car that I have. Instead of like buying a bad car and going, oh, I'm so depressed, like, this was a mistake.
Hiding it.
So it must be interesting to do what you do for a living. Do you think you'll keep doing it for a while? I mean, you've done it for 20 years.
Yes, and I share this kind of occupation with movies because I worked as a publicity agent in movies.
Okay. So you have some variety there.
I work on television also, but in production at the beginning of the private televisions, but always writing about dancing. I mean, although I had to write Sunday night because I don't have other time, I was writing because I didn't want to lose it. But I would like to write more. I mean, I would like to write with more space, I see the Americans, the New York Times, Washington Post, everybody can do there because here I think we will have some years of this kind of accommodation, of living, but I think we will start again to give more space and more place to dancing.
Well, maybe it's probably like a lot of things in the art. It fluctuates in popularity, different years or different. There's a different level of interest, I suppose. I'd like to come to go to a flamenco performance with you. We're out of time to continue talking too much longer, but at some point it would be fun to go with someone like you who knows what to tell me about it. I mean, since I know nothing about it, and to know where to go.
We can go together.
Let's set a date.
And then we'll speak about it.
Yeah, maybe I'll review it on the show here.
Yeah.
Cristina, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you
Cristina Marinero, my guest here in my living room. And thank you to you for tuning in to another conversation in English here in my living room. We'll be back with more interesting guests like Cristina for you very soon. So adios, amigos and amigas. Have a great day. Bye-bye.